To start by welcoming everyone. My name is Courtney Branigan. I'm the Chief Development Officer here at Ben Franklin Cummings, and we are so happy to have all of you with us today. If you're an alumni, interested student, parent of an interested student, member of the staff, volunteer, supporter of the college, please feel free to add any questions you might have to the chat. Kyra and I will make sure to bring those to Anna's attention, and we'll try to answer as many of them as we can. But without further ado, I have the pleasure of introducing Kyra Thomas, who's actually the head of our Women in Technology Club at the college, and a colleague of mine. And so Kyra, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. As Courtney said, so I'm Kyra Thomas. I am an admissions counselor here at BFIT. I've been with the school for 4 years now, and I've been running Women in Tech for the past 3.5 years. So this is our third conference, which I'm very excited about to know. We're now on number 3. Yeah, thank you all for coming. Let's get things started. So I have the pleasure of introducing an amazing woman, Anna Yu. She is currently serving on our board of trustees here at BFIT and has been for over 3 years. She also serves as the VP of operations at the Citizen Schools, which is also a nonprofit school who has the mission of helping their students thrive in school and beyond through hands-on learning, which is very much aligned with BFIT. So that's really cool. And then as far as her roles, she also oversees marketing, sales strategy, cross-functional collaboration at the Citizen Schools. And then her connection to technology, along with her roles as, of course, the Board of Trustees and the VP of Operations. She also has been working in digital marketing and serves as a trustee for Tomorrow's Women's Today, which is also a nonprofit program that supports the advancement of women emerging female leaders in Boston. So we have an amazing moderator today.
Thank you so much, Kyra, for that introduction. I am so honored to be here today and to be here to support Benjamin Franklin Cummings Institute of Technology, which has always been very near and dear to my heart, with the work that the organization does with workforce development, especially in areas like technology, which I think with women being underrepresented, especially in the leadership space, is why it's so important for us to be bringing this group of panelists here today. So without further ado, I am going to pass it over to have our panelists introduce themselves, talk a little bit about the path that took you to your current role today, and then if you could just talk for a minute about your connection to Benjamin Franklin, that would be great as well. And I'm going to start with you, Carol.
Thank you, Anna. So I am the Vice President of Electric Asset Management and Engineering for National Grid in our New England business. And my organization that I oversee has around 360 people in it, and we cover planning and engineering and design of our transmission and distribution lines, our substations, and the equipment that goes into those. We work on modernizing our grid as well as interconnecting all the new renewable resources, for whether they're distributed resources like solar or offshore wind. And this is going to enable us to get to this 2050 future that we're looking at as being fossil free. So that's my organization, and how I got here, I'd say, was a journey of not necessarily knowing I wanted to be an engineer when I got out of high school, right? So I had really no clue what an engineer did or does, right? And I did have a sister who suggested to me, an older sister, saying, maybe you would be good at engineering because you like math and science. And I said, okay, I'll see what that is. And I did get my engineering degree from Rensselaer RPI, and I've been with National Grid for 35 years. I came here right after school, and I started at its predecessor company called New England Electric System. And it really resonated with me to work for a utility because our company purpose is to bring energy to life. And that just feels like such a great thing to be doing. The product we serve really makes a difference for our customers, whether it's electricity for their homes and businesses, or heat for their businesses and homes also with gas. So that's how I kind of ended up in this space of being in a utility, but also how I got to this leadership role was really stepping forward whenever a question was asked, hey, we need somebody to do a certain assignment. And I never stepped back. I always said, kind of stepped forward and said, yes, I can do it. And even when it was something that was completely out of my comfort zone. And that is, I think, what's helped me get to where I am today. I've had many different engineering roles as well as leadership roles in both our transmission and distribution side of our business. And that's what helped me get to where I am and actually overseeing quite a bit of the business today. My connection with Benjamin Franklin is really around the pipeline of talent that Benjamin Franklin can bring to National Grid. You're in our footprint, you're in our backyard, you have great engineers that you're graduating and STEM professionals that you're graduating, and we want to be able to bring them in. So over the past few years, in fact, I think we've had 7 graduates from Benjamin Franklin joining National Grid in our engineering organization and our operations organization. And we're working right now with Dr. Francis on how National Grid might become a stronger partner with Benjamin Franklin in the future. So that's our connection with Benjamin Franklin. And I will turn it back to you.
Thank you so much, Carol, for sharing that. And it really is that wonderful relationship that we have with employers and leaders like you that makes it possible for us to support our students and make sure that they have a wonderful career opportunity when they graduate. With that in mind, I'm going to turn it over to Kelly to share a little bit about your path and your connection to Benjamin Franklin, and what's your current role today?
My current role today is a substation designer at National Grid under Carol. I got here by an internship that I did while I was at BFIT. I was part of the class of 2018. I'm a very big fan of our pipeline we're creating here, possibly our #1 fan. And, you know, in my spare time, when I'm not at BFIT or not at Grid, I volunteer as the chair of the Civic Unity Committee for the City of Cambridge. So this is my favorite combination of subjects here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. I'm going to turn over next to May. So I know that you are not necessarily working in tech today, but you are very much a leader in this space in terms of supporting the pipeline and the next generation of our workforce. So please tell us a little bit about yourself. And May, you are on mute.
Sorry about that. Just start off by Carol and Kelly, amazing. I'm already inspired by what I heard, and I think we're only on our first question. So hello everyone, my name is May Vaughn. I'm the executive director of a small organization called Sedewitz, where we support student parents, mostly mothers, mostly women, continue their education. And in my role as executive director, what I do is I support my staff to help mothers, some of them from Benjamin Franklin, and hopefully we potentially will be able to support more that will hopefully become the Kellys of the world and more engineers. How did I become a leader? I would first start by saying from mentors. And how did I land here? For a couple of reasons. One, I want to talk about Kyra a little bit. Kyra Thomas, I knew her as a 12-year-old child. I was one of her mentors growing up. And she was a young little girl running around, and she saw me as a leader. And when I reconnected with Benjamin Franklin, because one of my board members, the Citizens for Scholars, is an employee for Benjamin Franklin, we all reconnected, and it kind of all makes sense. We're all women, and we were all trying to support other women. And it all connected because you guys are all working towards technology. So I'm already inspired. I'm thinking about National Grid, and I'm excited to be here today. But If I had one thing to say about women and leaders, it's about mentorship. It's about us supporting each other, no matter if we're in for-profit, nonprofit, making tons of money, supporting kids and families. It's about other young girls seeing leaders in different roles. That's how we continue the pipelines of leaders, despite what industry we're in. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, May, for being here today. And thank you for all the work that you do to support folks so that they can really enter the workforce and explore those opportunities. I'm going to turn it over to Julia next. I love that we've invited alumni from Benjamin Franklin and would love to hear a little bit more about your role today and how you got there.
Yeah, so I graduated in 2020 with my associates in mechanical engineering technology, and through an internship I did at BFIT, I was offered a full-time role at Procter & Gamble Gillette, where I worked for the past 2 years, and was able to be promoted up a few levels. With that promotion, I was starting to think more about my future at the company, and I actually just moved to a startup in Cambridge, Commonwealth Fusion Systems. This is actually my first week, so I have a technician role here. Yeah, I can talk more about that at some point if you want me to, but yeah, it all started with BFIT.
That's awesome. Thank you, Julia. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit about how you got there, and congratulations on your new role. I would love to move into our next question, which is a tough one. It's actually about the challenges that you have faced as a woman in technology or in your leadership role, and how did you overcome it? So May, you are up first. If you could share a challenge that you faced in your leadership journey.
Mm-hmm. So I'll tie it back. I know I just spoke a little bit about parenting, and I am sure everyone knows a little bit about the lack of childcare and the lack of affordable childcare. It's a national issue, and despite how much income, even folks who are on the engineering side, when they graduate, childcare can still be quite expensive. And even if it's people have the resources, sometimes access is also another issue. I think that's the biggest barrier that I had. And how did I overcome it? I don't think I ever overcame it, to be quite honest. I think I leaned on supports that I had and family and friends. However, I want us to think about, a lot of, females and males that perhaps do not have those supports. So, oftentimes we have to think about, what are the individuals that do not have that? And speaking more about Citizens for Scholars, we try to mend that gap, but it still exists. There are still many students, and I'm sure there's many at Benjamin Franklin that could use some support around childcare. It's a national issue that needs the attention of all institutions and all citizens of the United States to lower the cost of childcare and also the access of childcare for all, despite income levels. So.
Thank you, May, and thank you for acknowledging that some of these challenges really don't go away, but there are resources and support for that as well. I'm going to turn it over to you, Julia, next, just to talk a little bit maybe about a challenge that you have faced getting into the technology industry.
Yeah, so for me, the first thing that I would think of is more psychological challenges. Working on like a manufacturing floor, there's definitely certain ideas that are communicated to me about what a leader might look like or act like, and comments about maybe my ability or my desire to learn certain things and be involved with certain projects. But it's really all just, like I said, psychological, or like just not overthinking it. Like I never had any issues actually performing in those projects or actually performing my job duties. Or, last year my team leader had surgery and I was left in charge for 6 weeks. And I know that there was some talk about some concerns with me in that role, just because of my style of leadership is not as like I don't know, it's just not what you would think of as or what they would think of as like being more forceful, I guess. I try to be more collaborative with my team, but I just kind of, although you always want to listen to feedback, I still kind of just did things the way that they made sense to me and listened to my team. If they felt like we needed more organization in a certain area, I would incorporate that. And yeah, I would say really with that type of thing, just not overthinking it, not letting it get to you and not making it make you doubt yourself. So being able to externalize any feedback or criticism you get and think about it in an objective sense rather than, oh, maybe they're saying that I can't do this or they see something about me that means that I can't. Yeah.
Thank you, Julia. That's a great example of something that I think is pretty much a theme across leadership for women in general, which is there isn't one leadership style per se, and having more of an openness to more collaborative styles, more different ways of approaching problem solving. So thank you for highlighting that. I think that's a really important thing to acknowledge, and something that if we as a larger community can start to embrace, would welcome more women into leadership roles. Carol, I'd love for you to go next, and feel free to tag on to any of the observations that Julia or May made as well.
I will actually, and I have so many stories, so you're gonna have to keep me narrow on this one. But May, the concern on childcare, I can tell you, I have 2 boys, and I had them in my late 20s and early 30s, and it was a major challenge on the daycare situation, finding the right daycare. And I have a wonderful partner, my husband of more than 33 years. He has been a fantastic partner along the way, but I can remember times arguing with him, who was taking time off from work when they got sick, how are we going to juggle this and balance this? It was always a major challenge. And I have to say, for National Grid anyway, we've come a long way, because now we do have benefits for our employees that are bonding benefits for both men and women. And the amount of time is just so much more than what there was when I was experiencing it. And I'm so thankful that we have this, because it really gives our young employees who are in the stages of their lives that they're having children, better opportunities to be able to really have a close relationship with their child and be able to work through those challenges. And we have flex time, which we didn't have before. And we have this ability of hybrid, of working from home, a couple, 2-3 days a week working from home. What a big change that is for those situations. So May definitely have to speak to that. And Julia, you stepping up and having people kind of wonder, why did you get that position? Like, why did they select you for that, to take on that interim, leadership role? And having that question, I've experienced that myself. I remember getting a promotion into a manager role, and actually having the employees, one of them, say to me, why did you get this job? And then having to defend myself in with that person. But I also remember that turning in many of these times when your people question whether or not you're fit for the role, or whether or not you are you can actually be a leader in a male-dominated field. What I've found over the years is that you really need to listen and find those people who can become your advocates, and actually take those people who are challenging you on those, and find out a way that you can help them, whether it's with something that's technical or something operational, that suddenly you become important in their lives, of their careers, right? As far as you can help make something improve in the business that you're working in. And you can turn those naysayers into your advocates. And that is something that I think is a way to overcome some of those issues. And I have to say, I mean, at being at National Grid, it is one of these companies that I feel very blessed to be working for, because they really do care about diversity and inclusion. And I've seen the growth. I mean, in my long career here, I don't hear those types of questions happening anymore. People who are promoted to a role, irrespective of who they are, what they look like, we know you're getting into that role because you have the qualifications and the skills. And so I'm really, excited because we have that culture here today. And I do have to say, though, I have a story. Let me know, Anna, if I don't have time to tell this one, but I'm hoping it's not a story that is replaying today in colleges. But when I was in college, and again, this was more than 35 years ago, I had a situation one time where I was the only female in the lab, the classroom that we were in, and it was a physics lab. And there were about 15 other students in this lab. All were white males. And that particular lab assignment was one that we were going to be doing in silence. And the professor was walking around the classroom monitoring the work. And he says, after about 45 minutes, "Are you going to let a girl beat you?" And I was mortified because I wanted to crawl under the desk. I was young. These boys that were in the class with me, they were my colleagues and friends. And the word struck me, and it took me years to outgrow that comment because I felt like I wasn't worthy to be there. By the way, I did finish first, and I did get the best score in that particular lab. But it was a microaggression, right? And those microaggressions, verbal or nonverbal, intentional or unintentional, can really hurt your psyche. And I'm doing some looking into this. There's 3 responses that you could have. You could let it go, you can respond immediately, or respond later. And in the respond later, you might want to be doing this on a sidebar with that individual who may have caused that microaggression. Now, I was a very young female. I was like 19 years old in a classroom, and the professor was probably 50 or 60 at the time. It is something that I hope is not happening in our college classrooms today. But when it does happen, don't be afraid. If it ever happens to any of you, don't be afraid to come forward and seek an ally, talk to somebody about it, and find a way to work through it faster, because I can tell you it held me back for many years. And hopefully, if you speak about it and talk to others about it, it won't hold you back. So that was my one story I just wanted to share. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Anna.
Thank you so much for sharing that story, Carol. And I am not at all surprised that you won that competition. And I would actually characterize that comment not so much as a microaggression. I think that was a macroaggression. That was pretty aggressive there. I'd love to turn it over. Actually, I'm gonna go off script a little bit. Kyra wanted to jump in and share a comment. So go ahead.
I
Kyra.
did, because literally the story that you told is why I'm so passionate about women in tech. So that's a major thing for me, that I feel like when you're young, and I say this when I talk to a lot of the students as a recruiter, when you're young and you're a woman, you are pushed away from STEM fields. That when you are the person who's excelling in the class, when you are the young girl who knows the math problem or is engaged in science, it's looked at as bad from your peers. So it's, oh, well, I don't, like, why are you talking too much? Or are you going to let this girl beat me? And that happens very young in life. So exactly what you said, exactly, yes, and Anna, it is a macroaggression. And the sad thing is that when you're young and you are in middle school, or you're in elementary school, or even in college, you might not have the voice to say, okay, let me not listen to this person. Let me stand up for myself. Let me keep going. And what happens with a lot of women in STEM is they move away from it. So they move away from engineer jobs. They move away from the careers that we are pushing here at BFIT. And they don't know that that is a possibility, and that in all actuality, women do excel in STEM fields. But because of these micro and macro aggressions, we move away from them without really understanding our real potential in these fields. So I'm glad you told that story, because that is a prime example of why I am so passionate about women in tech.
Thank you, Kyra, and thank you for bringing that passion. Yes. I do want to get to Kelly as well. Kelly, please tell us about a challenge you faced and how you overcome yours.
Definitely in the theme here. So some background on me is I have dyslexia, so I do not learn quickly, and math is not a strong subject for me. It never has been, and it never will be. So for a while when I wanted to study engineering, whenever I would go get help from math, even as early as elementary school, everyone would say, well, you know, Kelly, a lot of women just aren't that good at math. A lot of women just don't study engineering. Maybe you just shouldn't. And that persisted up until I went to BFIT. So there's probably a good decade from about 12 to 22 where every time I asked for help, everyone would just say, well, why don't you just give up? And, you know, that's like we just said, just aggressive and discouraging. And then when I got to BFIT in grid, the ability to ask for help and collaborate for others was seen as, you know, a beneficial skill, and not just that you should give up and go home. And, you know, spite really fueled me for those 10 years. Every time someone said, maybe you should give up, I said, no, you know, I think I'm just going to go continue what I'm doing because I was told otherwise. And that's why I studied mechanical engineering, because I was told civil engineering was girly engineering. I said, nope, I'm going to go study mechanical because someone said that I should change my mind. So I toughed it out. I did it. I stood on the stage at BFIT. Every time someone brings it up, I say, nope, check out my graduation pictures. We can do it. You know, I really hope the aggression stops there, but spite is a great fuel for all of us, it seems.
Kelly, thank you for bringing that passion. That, I believe that is the first time I've ever heard someone say civil engineering is a girly form of engineering. I don't know what that means.
It's ridiculous. Like, I will invite them to come stand under a greasy transformer with me every day of the week and see how many other women are out there. It's not that many.
No, not at all. But thank you for bringing that passion. Thank you for being inspired to really face those challenges and not let it stop you. I do want to actually dig in a little bit deeper to both of your experiences, Julia and Kelly. One of the things I want to kind of bring this back to is that Benjamin Franklin really encourages students to empower themselves and see themselves in a future career. So for the two of you, because you are alums of the school, I want to hear a little bit more about how investing in yourself and your education really comes to life for you. And how has your time at Benjamin Franklin prepared you for what you're doing in your career today? So I'm going to start with you, Kelly, and then we'll go to Julia.
Yeah, so I think a lot of what Benjamin Franklin did to prepare me was, you know, obviously the technical skills. There was a lot of technical work because that's why we're all here, and I love that. I thrive with that. But what also stands out to me is one day I was just having one of those days, you know, it might have even been a Monday. You just are not feeling it that day. We're in the machine shop. I'm trying to really, you know, like lefty loosey, righty tighty, and it was stuck. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh man, you know, I don't think I can do this. And the professor goes, you know what? I think you need a snack. And I said, yeah, you know, I think I do need a snack. And you know what? Everything worked out after the snack. So just not being discouraged, just saying, hey, you know, we're going to meet the needs of the student, and then we're going to work our way up from there, I think is really something that BFIT does and goes really beyond for their students and even their staff. You know, if you're having a rough time, they're all there to support you and each other. And I'm a big believer in that.
I love that. Thank you, Kelly. That's just a really very straightforward example of how Benjamin Franklin tries to meet students where they are. and not the other way around. Julia, can you share a little bit more about how Benjamin Franklin helped prepare you for your career?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things I took away from my time there was just to try things, even if I thought they weren't going to be something that aligned with something I wanted to do. Like, for example, the internship with Procter & Gamble, I was encouraged to apply for that. I didn't think it was something I would like or a company I'd be interested in working for, but, you know, I was like, it will be a good opportunity for me to do the interview. And I mean, like, I ended up working there for 2 years. I loved my internship there. I got some really good experience. Same thing goes for like some of the classes that, like, I think just really giving everything that you commit your time and energy to, like being able to give it your all and see what you can get out of it. And like at the very least, even if a class isn't maybe aligned with something that you're interested in or a strong suit, you could still like get to know the people in your class, learn how to collaborate, you know, make a connection with your teacher. Like there's always something to learn from everybody and every experience, and to just really take advantage of all the opportunities that BFIT offers you.
Thanks, Julia. I'm glad someone actually invited you to get outside of your comfort zone and explore something new. That is really what it's all about. And that's really key to growth. So that is amazing. One other thing I want to kind of touch on in terms of one of the core tenets of Benjamin Franklin is also thinking about learning as a lifelong journey. So of course, there are technical skills that you learn through your education, but we also want to focus on entrepreneurial and business skills and how that can also be a factor and a key to your success in your career. So I'm going to actually turn over to you, Carol, to start and maybe share a little bit about what entrepreneurial or business skills have been the key to your success so far.
Thank you, Anna. So I think there's several, but a couple things that as I was thinking about this question is really getting feedback on your performance. Feedback from your peers, from those who report to you, as well as your superiors, and then acting on that feedback. Because we can't grow unless we understand how we're being perceived by those that we're working with. And so I think that's really key. And also a second is recognizing the skills that may have gotten you into a job might not be the same skills you need to actually excel in that job and to keep that job. Because you often have to, you know, there's like the table stakes, they call it, things you have to do to get there. However, once you're there, it's often, especially in a leadership role, it's about inspiring others and bringing other people along with you, because you're not the one who's actually doing the work. I'm no longer doing the engineering. I'm asking questions. I want to make sure that we've got the right capabilities and the skills, and that the people who are doing the work have those capabilities and skills. And my role is about listening and removing barriers so that we can succeed at what we're doing. And so when you're trying to drive change in an organization, and you have to bring the people along with you. So there's this communication that you also have to do, and you have to communicate the why. Why are we trying to do something? Not just the what and the how, but really get to why we're doing something, because that will get to the hearts and minds of the employees that you're leading. And if they don't know why you're asking them to do something, forget it. It's not going to happen. They have to buy into it also. And so that's really important to achieve the goals that you might have as a leader. So listen, recognize the skills you had to get you to that job might not be the ones that will keep you there. And then think about the why in your communication on why you wanted to have something, do something in your organization.
Thank you, Carol. And I think you just talked about just great leadership skills in general. So really motivating and inspiring people to do the work. May, I'm going to turn to you next. If you could talk a little bit about some of those entrepreneurial or business skills that you use.
Yeah, there's many, but I'll just highlight a couple. You know, as you guys all know, I'm in the nonprofit world, and I think the most important key to my success has been communication. I am in the business of helping people, and that takes a lot of organizations. Students for Scholars, we are helping student parents succeed, and we need a lot of organizations similar to Benjamin Franklin to get to the students. So communication, negotiation on how we do that, and meeting the needs of the students first, meeting where they're at, meeting the student where they're at, and also making sure that everyone wins, students and partner organizations, and of course, Students for Scholars. So that also communication and negotiation. And to tie it all in, technology. I think about over the decades, how many times I've had to train on different technology pieces to kind of help me do my job better. And I think in the nonprofit world, that's where we need a lot of support. It does create a lot of time for us to do our work with a lot more efficiency. So I would end with technology, but it's definitely communication and negotiation to meet the needs of the students.
Thank you, May. I think you and Carol both mentioned communications as being key to really success here. Julia, you recently mentioned an opportunity you had to sort of get into a leadership role. Are there some skills that you got to exercise in that capacity?
Yeah, so kind of like I was talking about before, I think I have become more aligned like with myself and how I naturally work, and feeling like it's okay that I might be different than, you know, what might be expected or what I might have thought about previously. I definitely think a huge part of it is just transparency, like the humility and transparency to say like, maybe I'm in charge, but I'm not the best person to do this, or like I'm the most technically like expert on this element of it. So like, I guess that the sort of delegation aspect of it, as well as, I don't know, really just like a people-oriented approach. So where I worked, I had a whole team of like 6 or 7 people running machines, and just like knowing who I work with, what they're interested in, like what maintenance that one person might dread doing, somebody else might be really excited to have like the opportunity to train on. So taking advantage of like making that process the most, I don't know if efficient is the right word, but the most beneficial to everybody involved. Yeah, I think also just being like a self-starter and not waiting for anybody to ask you to start working on something or solve a problem that hasn't been recognized yet. Like if you notice something, bring it up, or, you know, start working on it, or just like implement something, you know, within the policies, rules of the huge corporation I worked at. But yeah, like trusting myself and my expertise that I had developed, like being able to notice, you know, if we actually like swap that bolt around, we would have more room in the stroke of this component. I'm going to do that right now, and then I will check back in with leadership about it, and like then my team gets to like head up this whole project essentially because of this small thing that I found doing maintenance. So yeah, not just being like, okay, this is my to-do list for the day, also being like, what opportunities do we have to enrich like the team's environment, and also enrich like our process that we do without, yeah.
Awesome, thank you. I think you hit on like 5 really fantastic skills there, Julia, and the creative problem solving piece to that I think is a really strong one to highlight as well. Kelly, is there anything else that hasn't been mentioned that you think you use in terms of people skills, you know, entrepreneurial skills, any of the sort of non-technical aspects of what you've been able to hone?
I would say the communication, very much mirroring what Carol said about the why. If you can't explain what we're doing and why we're doing it, it creates uncertainty. So I would say that the ability to create, you know, just an environment where everyone says, yes, this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it, this is the goal we're going to achieve, is really beneficial. And I think that's really, no matter where you work, even outside technology, the ability for your team to all be on the same page and work together. And then, you know, as a technical skill along in there, we can think of anything as engineers, but the question is really, can we build it? And then, for a business skill, can we afford to build that? And, that's that last part everyone doesn't really like discussing is, can we afford to do it? And it becomes more and more important as you get along in your career to really think about that and explain to everyone else, that might be part of why we're doing what we're doing. So being able to communicate really helps as it goes on.
Absolutely, Kelly. That was, an important one to highlight. And, I love that you asked those hard questions too, which is beyond the technical aspect, the business side of this is really important. Can we afford to actually be making these changes and adjustments? So thank you for sharing that. I'm going to move on to, as we think about all of the success that you've each achieved in your career, now sort of pivoting and thinking about how can we help other women succeed as well. So I'm going to start with you, Julia, just to see if there's a thought or an idea you had in terms of how can we help other women to succeed.
In my role, I think what I find that I can be most effective with is like just small things, like how like other people have encouraged me to do something that I might not feel like I'm ready for, or I'm not sure if it's, a little outside what I think I might like, just encouraging people to take advantage of those opportunities. Just being like, if you are in a position of leadership, being fair in terms of like people, like not even just women, but just everybody getting equal opportunity to train and learn and be considered for certain like opportunities or classes even that the company might offer. I think that just reaching out and making that connection is really important. Like if there's somebody who's maybe in a position that I think I might like to be in, just like a simple introduction and being like, oh, what you do seems really interesting, asking them some basic questions, or on the flip side, like seeing somebody that I'm like, oh, this person kind of reminds me of me when I started like making that introduction and just, like saying, I'm here basically. Don't like, we can talk, we can support each other no matter what that ends up being in the future.
Thank you, Julia. So just keeping an eye out for those opportunities to make those personal connections and introducing new ideas, new opportunities to folks as well. I'm going to go over to Carol and see if you have any suggestions on how you can help other women to succeed.
Sure. So I think Kyra or may have brought it up earlier about mentoring. Mentoring is, especially as you move up through your career, is so important so that you are helping other women in the daily work that they're doing, not technical mentoring, but mentoring with the leadership skills. And being a mentor, I have always found I get much more out of it than sometimes the mentees, because you have to go back and really think about like what is the key that this young woman needs to hear from me. And sometimes I ask myself, am I doing that? Am I doing the skills that I need to, that I'm asking this person to do? And so I find being a mentor is just as much rewarding for the mentee, for the mentor as it is for the mentee. And I would also suggest that, Julia and Kelly, it sounds like you're on a great path and you're doing fantastic things, but also get out there and I think, Kelly, you're already doing it in your communities. Let them see you, because young women who are in middle school or in high school, girls, they need to see women in STEM fields early enough in their formative years to think that I can do it. And they're going to relate much more to somebody like yourself than they will to me right now. Maybe they'll think of me as their grandmother, but it's like, it is a great thing to do, because I know even with my nieces, when my nieces see me and they think about, we talk about the work that I do, they're pretty impressed that, wow, she's the boss. And it's like, yes, and you can be too. Right. This is the message you want to send to people. It's like you are a role model, and just seeing you in what the careers that you have is a role model for other young women to want to step up and give it a try. So, you know, the last thing, I got one more thing, is that if you are in a leadership role and you are in the opportunity to hire other people, remember the phrase "two in the pool." One of my human resource business partners had used this with me. The success of somebody who is a minority or a woman of getting that position increases 100-fold if there are two in the pool. So 2 women in the pool of candidates gives you 100% increase of a chance that a woman will get that role. So same thing for minorities. So remember the 2 in the pool. And I look for that now also, to make sure that there isn't just one woman who might be applying for a position. Hopefully there's more than one.
Awesome. Thank you, Carol. And, you know, that is a great concept. And I think you may have also heard of the double Rooney rule. That's also feels like along the same lines, different ways in which we can ensure that we are really kind of stacking the deck here and making sure that there are more opportunities. May, I'm going to turn over to you. You also mentioned mentorship at one point. So if you want to dig a little deeper, that sounds like a theme that we're hearing in terms of how to help other women succeed.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Kyra. I love that 2 in the pool. I wrote that down and highlighted that. So thank you for that. Definitely mentorship is key. And I like the piece, and I think I may have talked about it earlier. The more young girls can see us, no matter what industry we're in, the more they can see themselves. So everyone, the attendees, students, current students, future students, alumni, please find an opportunity to volunteer and go out to many nonprofits in Boston and be seen, be heard, and let other young girls see you. Sitters for Scholars, I have to put a plug in. We have parents who are students who need babysitters. They're trying to further their education. And that is also a mentorship opportunity. Even if you're babysitting their child, you connect with the parent too. You're talking to the parent too. And they see you, oh, I'm an engineer. Oh, I'm a mechanical. Maybe they're getting their Hassett. Maybe they're getting their associate's degree. But they see you, right? And they see a further future. Maybe they're just getting their GED. They just got to this country, and they can see a further future for them. So I encourage you also to volunteer in other organizations that may not necessarily, be engineering, or you may not be talking tech, but you can tell people who you are and what you're doing and what you've done. And that will see other women will get the opportunity to see you and say, wow, she did that. So please look up Sitters for Scholars, but also all the other organizations that serve women because you are a leader and future leaders, and we would love to put you in front of young girls and young women so we can continue the pipeline of women leaders. Thank you. Carol, you inspire me. You're going to be my friend. I'm going to find you. You're my mentor.
You are all so inspirational. Thank you so much for that, May, and thank you for all the work that you do. I am actually going to pivot because I do see there are a few questions in the chat, and I do want to make sure we get to those in our last 5 minutes here. So the first one is for you, Carol. What would you say are the top benefits of a partnership with Benjamin Franklin Institute of Technology? From the business perspective, what is the best advice for other leaders who might be looking to expand access to the talent pipeline?
So I think Benjamin Franklin, one, you have a great pool of candidates that you bring through, and you train and you educate. So we're always looking for institutions that we think are doing a fantastic job educating their students, and Benjamin Franklin is. So that's kind of like the table stakes. But when I think about Benjamin Franklin, one of the great things is that you represent the communities that we serve. We want our workforce to also look like the communities that we serve, and that you help us do that, because you have a very diverse student population, and you're also more of an underserved student population in many ways, and we want that diversity in our organization. And I think that partnering with Benjamin Franklin and finding a way to offer these internships, and finding a way to have, you know, this pipeline coming in, helps your students and it helps our company, because you then become these great advocates. I mean, our employees are our biggest advocates for National Grid, and we need that at times when we're also in a great change in our and the energy society that I guess we would have, right? We're changing over to renewables rapidly, and we want to make sure we're not leaving anyone behind, and we want to make sure that we are serving the communities the best way possible, and that requires that we have a diverse and talented workforce, and that's where Benjamin Franklin comes in.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad that you, as an organization, have that top of mind, because that diversity, equity, and inclusion.
It absolutely is.
Yeah. I'm going to actually turn over the next question to Kelly, and then Julia. So there's a question in the chat around thinking about the women you have looked up to in your academic and professional careers. What attributes do you bring that you feel allow others to see you as an inspiration or as a mentor?
I actually do a lot of direct mentoring with our Grid Turn, you know, our interns at Grid program. And one of the things I tell the HR people, because they select us with some science I don't understand, but it's fun, is that, you know, if there's young women who specifically want a woman mentor, I'm here for that. And much like, you know, Carol said, when you're starting out, first thing in college, you're maybe 19, 20 by the first internship. It might be the first time you're in a professional environment at all. And that can be kind of scary. So just kind of showing up and saying, hey, you know, I've been there, I've done that, we'll get through it together, I feel like is a really great skill. Just encouraging someone else instead of putting them down goes a long way. And then hopefully they do it for someone else.
Awesome. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you for mentoring others and telling them that they can do it. Julia, do you have anything to add to that? You're on mute.
Just to answer the question from my experience, I think it's really just like my technical ability. I think like being recognized as one of the best new mechanics and being promoted up into more complex roles and responsibilities. I think I had like a lot of women come up to me that I worked with to talk to me about that, like where was my background, and just like offer encouragement as far as like, just don't be intimidated. Like, don't think that everybody else knows what they're doing. Some of the people that started with me, like hadn't like never turned a wrench before. So yeah, I think just representing somebody who is maybe an expert in their field, and I happen to be a woman, it can be encouraging. I don't know.
Thank you, Julia. And just being that sort of presence, that encouraging presence, and being out there and being willing to talk to others about it is really fantastic. I'm going to close us out. I know I'm going right down to the line here in terms of our last minute. There is a question in the chat, Kelly, specifically for you, if you're comfortable answering this. What advice might you give to others who also have dyslexia in terms of how they can actually pursue some next steps in their career in technology? So over to you.
I would say just keep advocating for yourself. You know, even if you get told no, just keep doing it. Don't stop. And the other part is think about, you know, where your skills are. Maybe you're good at biology or psychology. Maybe you need to take a class more than once or part-time. Just do what works for you, and you don't need to worry about being on the road less traveled as long as you get to your goal. So just keep at it. You'll get there.
Thank you, Kelly. You are a model of persistence and perseverance. So thank you. I am going to close this out. We are at 1:30, and thank you. That hour went by so fast. I am inspired by each and every one of you panelists. Thank you so much for joining us today, sharing your experiences, being vulnerable, and sharing your advice with our panel here and our attendees. I'm going to turn it over to Kyra and Courtney if there's anything you want to do in closing, but thank you so much for your time and thank you for coming.
I just want to say thank you, Anna, for being an amazing moderator. Thank you to all our panelists, Carol, May, Kelly, Julia. Thank you for just sharing your stories. Like I said earlier, a big thing I feel like is important, especially in women in STEM and just overall, is hearing other people's stories, being able to learn. And I've learned this being a recruiter and being a counselor. Word of mouth is very big. In pretty much any industry that you'll ever go in, word of mouth and other people's experiences has a very big influence on basically passing the torch. So when other people can hear, like, it's possible to be a woman leader, it's possible to be a student, a female student, and you might be the only female student in your class. You might be the only female on the team, but you're still doing it. You might have other disabilities, just different things going on in your life. You might be a mom, you might have family things going on, anything, but you're still doing it. Other people being able to see that is very big, because then it gives them the opportunity to try it themselves. And no, you might not succeed at everything, but seeing other people do it gives you the confidence to try it. And that's what I want to push with Women in Tech, just continuously showing students, the younger generations, that it's possible, so that when they do get to Kelly's level and Carol's level and May's level, that they see it's a thing. And, they get to say, okay, like for me, I get to say May was my mentor. I remember being younger and seeing May in leadership and feeling like, okay, I want to do that. I want to be a woman leader. And now I am in a leadership role and I get to do that for other women. So definitely thank you all very much for just everything you're doing, and continue doing it. Thank you for everyone who attended, and yeah.
Great, thank
Congratulations on your promotion, Julia, while we're here.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting.